I've used a lot of meal services, but Hungry Root truly stands out because it's built around the way real families live and eat. They don't just send meal kits. They personalize your grocery cart and meal plan based on your preferences and dietary goals. All I had to do was take a short quiz, and right away, their smart cart technology started building a cart that fit how we eat. Now, each week feels easier, like someone else is doing the thinking for me. I've been focused on cleaner eating lately, and I love that Hungry Root keeps out over 200 additives, including things like high fructose corn syrup and artificial sweeteners. Their meats are hormone and antibiotic free, and the produce options include organic and non GMO picks. They also stock brands I already trust, like Oatly, Vital Farms, and Harmless Harvest. One of our favorite meals has been the teriyaki salmon with green beans, light, flavorful, and done in 12 minutes flat. Plus, I've noticed we waste less food, spend less time shopping, and even save money by skipping those impulse grocery buys. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/Dr. Meg and use code Dr. Meg. That's hungryroot.com/Dr. Meg. Code Dr. Meg to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/Dr. Meg. Code Dr. Meg. Is your child struggling with social skills more than other kids? Well, today we're addressing this common concern on Parenting Great Kids. Joining us is author Brooke Romney, whose best-selling book series 52 Modern Manners for Today's Teens, Volumes 1 and 2, offers weekly tips to aid parents and teens in navigating the complexities of today's world. Her latest release provides valuable advice for kids ages 4 to 12. So regardless of the age of your kids, there's something here for every parent.
Another thing that was really important with the manners is I always gave a why. Teens want to know, what's in it for me? Am I doing this because I want my mom to be proud of me? Sometimes that doesn't work for a teenager. But when they understand what's in it for them, you get to be seen as a connector. You have control of your friendships. All of a sudden, they're a little more willing to take a risk, go out on a limb, and try to introduce themselves.
Welcome to Parenting Great Kids. Here's your host, Dr. Meg Meeker.
Welcome to the show, Brooke, and thanks so much for writing this book.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Meeker. You have been an inspiration for me and my boys for a long time.
Well, thank you. Modern manners. When I saw your book come across my desk, I thought, yes, finally, somebody's going to talk about manners and kids, because it seems to me that we've lost the art of teaching kids how to be polite and what to say and what not to say and how to present themselves in different groups. For instance, you're going to talk differently to your grandmother than you're going to talk to your friends at school, or you're going to address your teacher differently than you're going to address your father. So what inspired you, other than people like me saying, please help us, what inspired you to embark on this 52 Manners for Today's Teens project?
Well, my real inspiration was as my kids started to get older and I was observing them. I was observing their friends. I was in the schools working with youth groups, and I noticed that things were different than I expected them to be, even with my own kids. And I saw that there were two groups of kids. One group of kids really understood social norms. They were aware, they were kind. It came easily to them. They had a high emotional and social IQ. The other group did not. And I watched the first group have more opportunities. They were more connected. They had more friendships. People liked them. They promoted them in different ways in school and work. And the other group was in a different pattern where life seemed to be really difficult. They had a lot of negative things happen. They felt left out often. They were often the bad example of what was going on. And I noticed their confidence slipping and putting them into a negative feedback loop. And as I observed these two groups, I realized that there wasn't anything They didn't have to be a calculus student to do well at this. They just needed to know a few simple manners, social norms, ways to connect, ways to have relationships. And what I realized is because of the world that we live in that is so technology heavy, their eyes were down, headphones were in a lot, and they weren't getting the opportunity to observe this in their regular life. And I thought they needed something more deliberate. And parents needed something deliberate so they could teach these really nuanced manners.
So does this have more to do with manners or more to do with personality and psychological issues? Because when I think of the kids, and I've seen exactly what you're talking about, who are walking the school halls and they're looking down and they feel very uncomfortable with themselves, my first instinct is, boy, that kid needs help. But so what does that have to do with manners? And if you can sort of back up a little bit, you saw two groups of kids. One group that seemed self-confident, outgoing, sort of navigating life with their friends, and then another group sort of looking down, isolated. So were there manners that you saw were different, or were there issues that were different, or how do the manners and the psychology, if you will, tie together here?
Well, I call these modern manners because it's about being aware, connected, confident, and kind. And I think that some of these kids understood it just more inherently. They were good at it. I think some kids were taught it and believed their parents when they said that this would be a way to be successful. And I think other kids, this other group, either it just didn't come naturally, there was some neurodivergence, ways that they weren't picking up on things, or maybe they just weren't being taught it. So I think that that was the difference between those two groups. And I think that what I saw was some just needed it more explicitly taught than others.
So what I'm hearing you, and that makes a lot of sense, is that kids who didn't have much self-confidence, or maybe they'd sort of quote unquote been beaten up by life a little bit, sort of withdrew and they didn't have what they needed to relate to others in a positive way. Because when I think of manners, I think of it as a person behaving in a way that respects other people. And so if a child or a teenager doesn't respect themselves and they feel bad about life, they're clearly not going to treat other people well. Is that kind of what you're talking about, or what am I missing?
No, I think you're exactly right. And I think a lot of times it's because of life circumstance or maybe certain choices that they're making, like you said, where they don't feel confident about themselves. They don't feel good about who they are. What happens with manners is as you start practicing them, you start to get that inner confidence that you didn't have. Maybe life has dealt you a hard hand. Maybe things just haven't gone well for the last little bit. But as you start to do these small, simple things, you start to feel good about yourself. You start to get positive feedback. You start to realize that maybe there's something outside that is making you feel good on the inside.
I love it, because a lot of times when kids are looking down and they're feeling isolated and they feel awkward and they're having a hard time navigating life, counselors say, well, what's going on in you? What's wrong? And of course, that's very good to sort of dig in and figure out why they feel the way they do. But what you're talking about is when you begin to exercise manners, i.e., focus on treating others with respect, treating others with kindness, it has a big impact on you. And I love that, because you're right. Manners, in a way, are about helping kids look outside themselves. How do I treat other people? And I love that positive cycle that starts to come about. So talk about the top 5, if you could, manners that you think are important for kids to be able to exercise that will help both them and their connections with people around them.
Well, I started the book with the manner introduce yourself. This one sounds really simple, but our kids are really struggling with it because they don't see it practiced that often. Like I said, because of technology, then we had a big blip with COVID where no one was interacting at all, and they need that little boost. So introducing yourself is really simple and easy, but giving a teenager or a kid a little template where you say, when you walk into a room, if you don't know someone, you can simply say, "Hi, I'm Brooke. I don't think I've met you yet. What's your name?" And all of a sudden, they see themselves as a connector, as someone who's brave, as someone who, if they are alone, they have the capabilities to find a friend or make a connection. So that's why I started the book with that one. I think it impacts kids from the age of 4 all the way to kids age of 94, because if you can introduce yourself, you won't have to be alone again.
It keeps them present. It doesn't allow them to hide. It doesn't allow them to sort of sit on the periphery and go, I'm not really here, but I just want to watch you. I love it because introducing yourself and saying your name to other people says to them, I am here. I'm engaged. I want to be here. I want to be involved.
Yeah. And another thing that was really important with the manners is I always gave a why. Like you said, teens want to know what's in it for me. Am I doing this because I want my mom to be proud of me? Sometimes that doesn't work for a teenager. But when they understand what's in it for them, you get to be seen as a connector. You have control of your friendships. All of a sudden, they're a little more willing to take a risk, go out on a limb and try to introduce themselves. The next one that is more of a simple manner is to respect people's homes. And this talks about when you walk in, ask somebody about their shoe policy, say hello, make sure you're treating their items with respect. If you need food, politely ask for it or wait for it to be offered. Don't just open someone's fridge and take what you will. One of the things I love about this manner is that then you become the kid that other people want to have around. Parents love a respectful friend. So suddenly you're the one that's always welcome in the home. You're the one that gets invited on the weekend away. That boosts our kids' confidence to say, wow, people like me. This friend's parents think I'm great. The bar has been set fairly low for the generation that's happening right now. And by doing those simple things, just by being polite, it can bring really great rewards to our kids in the way they feel about themselves and the way they interact with others.
You're absolutely right, because you think of people who, go through their teen years in college, those who respect other people and respect that person's boundaries, like in the home. This is your stuff, not my stuff. So I'm not going to cross a boundary. I'm not going to walk in and, traipse around in my muddy boots if they have a no shoe policy, whatever. And it sounds simple, but it does a lot. It means a lot. These small, simple things that you're talking about are incredibly important because it teaches them to honor somebody else's boundary and respect them, which then again, it's that loop. It teaches them to respect themselves. And once those kids get out of high school or college, whatever, they're going to succeed in their jobs so much better. And I try to tell this to kids all the time. You can say, I can dress any way they want. I can talk any way that I want. People need to accept me. Well, maybe and maybe not. Good luck getting a really good job when you go in talking to somebody and you look sloppy and terrible. They're not going to want you. So honoring somebody's home. Number 3, what is it?
Number 3, I would say nothing online is private. So because this book was written for teens, there are quite a few technology manners in there. I think parents, especially who have teenagers that have come of age in the smartphone era, it's a bit of the Wild West, and parents weren't quite sure what to teach and how to help their kids understand how to be online. So nothing online is private is probably, I think, one of the most important manners you can teach your teens, helping them understand that even if they thought they were sending a Snapchat and it was going to disappear, that there are screenshots, to remember that what they say can be used in the future by an employer. It can be taken to a school administration. Maybe the girl that you're texting, her dad is reading that. There's so many heartbreaks that can be helped if we can help our kids understand that simple manner of nothing online is private.
So online rules. So seeing what the rules are that you need to implement to keep yourself safe and respected.
Absolutely.
Because as you said, kids want to know what's in it for them. We can say, well, it's not private and like, yeah, okay, mom, but really you just don't understand. Yeah, we do understand. And that's why we're saying it to kind of convince a 15-year-old girl or 15-year-old boy who shows a picture of themselves half nude that's going to be there forever. It's hard to convince them of that. Go into that a little bit more detail if you could. So navigating the online presence, nothing is private. Do you give kids specific examples of how it's not private and how things have been breached? Can you talk to us maybe that your own kids have experienced?
Well, I like to remind them, my kids and those that I work with, that they want to be the same person who they are privately as they are online. They don't want to have a huge gap between those two people. One of the most important things that really seems to resonate with teenagers is if your friend's parent read that, would they want their kid to hang out with you? Would they want their child to date you? Would they be comfortable with their kid having a relationship with you? Friendships mean a lot to teenagers, and being accepted and being able to be part of a group. That's a really great reminder. We often share experiences where kids just did something that they thought was silly and dumb and only a few people were noticing, but it comes with consequences for their school. They get suspended from sports teams. There's been stories where employers and college admissions officers will look at somebody's online footprint and make a decision. So helping them understand, I love helping them understand the consequences for right now, right this minute. Do you want that girl's dad to let you take her on a date or not? And for the future, do you have plans for the future that you wouldn't want to mess up because you just thought you were being funny or silly or just even being a little bit edgy?
I have to take a quick break, but before I go, I want to invite you to follow me on Facebook. You can find me as Meg Meeker, MD, or simply enter the handle at Meg Meeker, MD. You'll also find a link in the bio for quick access to additional resources. We'll be right back. Some days, parenting feels like chasing moments that never quite land. You ask a question, they shrug. You try again, they look at their screen. And you wonder, why is this so hard? That's why I love FamGabs. It's a 70-card deck created by a child therapist who spent 16 years working directly with families, helping parents and kids break through the awkward one-word answers and really connect. The questions are open-ended, thoughtfully chosen, and designed to get your child talking and keep the conversation going. There are even bonus cards just for parents to help you build your confidence in your connection toolbox. If you've ever wished for a better way to understand your child or just to have more meaningful conversations as a family, FamGabs is such a gift. Search FamGabs on Amazon and use promo code DrMegPod during checkout to get 10% off your order. That's FamGabs on Amazon. Use promo code DrMegPod and get 10% off your order. You know that moment when your child lights up because something finally clicks? That's what every parent wants, to see their child thrive. But when school just isn't the right fit, that joy can fade. That's why I want to tell you about K-12 powered schools. These are tuition-free, accredited online public schools for kindergarten through 12th grade. They're designed to meet your child where they are so they can learn at their own pace, in their own space, and a curriculum that fits their unique learning style. And here's what sets it apart. This isn't homeschooling. You're not the teacher. K-12's state-certified online educators are trained to make lessons interactive and engaging using innovative technology. And your child still gets social experiences, clubs, extracurriculars, even in-person events. K-12 has helped over 3 million families give their kids the tools to thrive, and they've been doing it for more than 25 years. It could be exactly what your child needs. Visit k12.com/drmeg to find a tuition-free K-12 powered school near you and enroll today. That's k12./drmeg, all caps. So when we think back to our first opening, and you were talking about two groups of kids, the kids that are more self-confident, that'll look at you, that seem happy, and then the other group of kids who seem awkward and shy and they look down. Are both groups open to accepting the manners you've just been talking about? I would think that it would be hard for a group of kids or a teenager who doesn't have much self-respect and doesn't feel that they're worth much to engage in these kind of things, to say, well, what does it matter if things aren't private online? I mean, it doesn't, I'm not worth sort of protecting. What is your experience dealing with all sorts of kids in accepting and implementing the manners that you're talking about?
Well, I love your philosophy in the way you talk about kids, that they're great kids. And what I've seen is these manner books are actually stand-up flip books. And so the manner is displayed. And one of the reasons I did that was because of those kids that you're talking about. They may not want to engage in a conversation about this. They might feel so insecure that they don't even want to broach the subject with a parent. But if we keep the manner books out, they have the opportunity to take the information in on their own terms. And I had a great story from a mom who said, I have a prickly 14-year-old boy who doesn't want to listen to a thing I say.
Yeah. Don't
I
we
brought
all?
the manner book.
Yeah, don't we all? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I brought the manner book in our home. I knew there was no way he would sit down and talk about it together as a family. But I came home the other day early and he was reading the manner book. And I think what we forget is that even the kids who are really struggling, they want to be successful. They just aren't quite sure how. And when I wrote this and when I tried to decide how I would display it and how many words would be on a page, I did it so teens would have the opportunity to take it in on their own if that's the way they wanted to do things.
I love the way you lay it out. And you're absolutely right, because I've sort of done the same thing. I don't have teenagers at home, but I have grandkids and their parents. Is that it's not a regular book. It's kind of a flip book, if you will. And if you just leave it lying around, that is really one of the best ways to get people to read something. And I find that people are more likely, or kids are more likely, to pick up a book they can flip through rather than one that's sitting on its side with an unbroken binder and they have to go through pages and read pages. So I think that the format, I want parents to realize the format and the way you wrote it is extremely user-friendly for teenagers. Now, I know that you work with parents and they struggle regarding social skills development in their kids. And how do they learn to build empathy and help their kids navigate friendships and address shyness or social anxiety? Is there a place for them learning manners and teaching their kids these manners that will develop those, help kids with social anxiety, shyness, and developing empathy?
Yes, that's one of the reasons why I felt like it was a book that every home needed, is because I had a message from a woman who said, I didn't grow up in a home that taught me anything. So as I became a parent, I wanted to equip my kids with all these things that I didn't know, but I didn't know where to get them. And she said that she is learning along with her kids as they go through this manner book of how to exist in the world. She wanted her kids to be those type of kids that she looked at, that were successful, that understood how to make connections, that understood how to have relationships, but she didn't know how. And so she said she is learning with her kids because this is a template for her also to learn how to do that. So they practice these things together as a family. One of the manners is be a good conversationalist. She said this was something that she had never learned, that when someone asks you a question, you answer and then you ask the question in return. I have a lot of really easy formulas for kids who are shy or who have social anxiety so that those entrances into society aren't quite as scary. One of them is how to start a conversation, and it's a really simple formula. It's make an observation and then ask a question. I see you're wearing a Michigan hat. Are you from Michigan? It's so easy to do that, but for kids who've never been taught those things, they just aren't quite sure how. And for parents who were never taught those things, they don't know how to help their kids learn those really simple formulas and ways to bring about connections and relationships. And when they do it with the book, it just doesn't seem quite as hard.
It is so simple, but the effect is so profound. That's what is remarkable to me, because I'll be honest. I saw your book at first, like, oh, okay, manners. Okay, I have to teach them to use a fork. The outside fork is for salad, and the second fork is for, your meal. But this is so much deeper. But these simple things, and this is so classic of human behavior. The simple changes that we make have the most profound effect on our character and our well-being. I think a lot of adults haven't learned that skill. I'm a shy person. I'm an introvert. People don't believe that, but I don't do well in big crowds. I love this, you and I talking. And so if I'm in a room with a small group of people, I sometimes, where do I start? What do I say? And to learn to look around and to find something that that person may want to talk about. And if you find something about that person, most people like to talk about themselves. So you can ask them a question about themselves. Where do you work? Where do you go to school? What sports do you like? What do you say to that child who has a lot of social anxiety and said, that sounds good for you, but when I'm at school, and I have a lot of patients like this, when I'm at school and I'm walking down the hall and I see kids talking, there's no way I'm going to say anything. So how do you work with that child who's feeling some social anxiety/shyness, who just can't move forward and engage?
One of the things that I like to remind both teenagers and parents is that social skills, we have to have a growth mindset about them, just like we have a growth mindset about math or reading. That social skills and relationship skills and connection, those are things that we can learn. We might not be good at them yet, but with practice and with effort and with a little coaching from our parents or help from a book, we are absolutely capable of getting better at those things. So what I would say is I would start with a very small challenge each week. So if you're not ready to introduce yourself, that's okay. But I would say this week in the hall, I want you to look up instead of down. I want you to make eye contact with one person or with 5 people. And when they've been able to do that, I would move to the next thing. I would like you to say hi to someone you already know. The girl that you went to elementary school with, our neighbor. Instead of pretending like you don't know that person, say hi. And one of the things that I say in the book fairly often is it will feel awkward. It's going to feel awkward, and that's okay. And it feels awkward for everyone. And I think these books have really helped kids understand that it's not just a them thing. This is something that hundreds of thousands of teenagers are struggling with. It helps parents realize I'm not on an island. It's not only my kids that aren't getting this. It's families everywhere. And this offers like a third-party expert opportunity for families and for teenagers to engage and get better in a growth mindset when it comes to relationships, social skills, interaction, all those things that can be really important for all of us in the future.
That's about what I say. You should take my job over in my office, because I'll say to kids, look, it is hard and it's going to feel weird and it's going to feel awkward, but you can do awkward because you're a strong kid. And once you get past the initial hello, or standing up straight, or not looking down, look straight ahead, or try to make eye contact with people or smile, they go, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought. So it's sometimes the anxiety that precedes the action that is actually worse for kids. Connecting parents with kids is crucial. We know that, attachment is very important in the young years and the later years, but it can seem to get hard as kids get older. What do you say to parents who want to maintain strong bonds with their kids, but there's so many distractions, not just for them, but for their kids? They've got smartphones, they've got technology, and it seems that it's really easy for a parent and a kid just to go, okay, I'm going to go off and I'm going to answer texts, or, I'm interested in talking to you, but I got to answer this call. So are there any specific guidelines that you give parents for manners around technology in order to stay more connected to their kids?
One of the reasons I wrote this book is I was tired of us not being able to engage in conversations that felt important and worthwhile. Teenagers don't want parents that are going to ask them 200 questions about what they did that day. That feels like an assault on them. So being able to have a topic of conversation for us to engage in that actually feels meaningful, but enjoyable for both of us, that was another reason why I wrote the book. That every week we had a set dinner time conversation that didn't feel like, who are you eating lunch with? What are your grades like? That kind of barrage of questions for them. Another thing that I think is really important for parents that's really worked for me is I love to have a thing that I do with my teenagers. It was pretty easy for me to connect with kids when they were younger. We had a lot of time together. But as they've gotten older, I love having a thing that we do. And it depends on what your family situation is like. It can be something you do daily or it can be something you do weekly. But where I am dialed in, and it doesn't have to be long, but it should be meaningful. So for one of my sons, I rebound the basketball for him almost every day. He goes out and he does his shots and I rebound the basketball. Could I tell him to rebound his basketball for himself? Absolutely. Is he capable of that? Yes. But it gives me an opportunity almost daily to be able to connect with him in a meaningful way and in a way that he enjoys too. It's not like, oh, mom wants to sit and have a conversation with me again. It's like, let's go. And he almost always asks me to come out with him. For another kid, he loves to go to Costco with me. So I try not to go to Costco without him. And that's just our time. He likes a little bit of control of what we're going to eat and the snacks we're going to have. And so really looking at your schedule, looking at your week and saying, where can I create a connective experience where it may have been easier or maybe even more enjoyable in the moment for us to be on our own devices or get our own things done? How can I deliberately try to connect with my kids in a way that they might enjoy too?
It's so simple. And this reminds me of course, our kids grew up without cell phones because I'm that old. And I loved it. But one of my kids loved going to the grocery store with me. And I thought, well, that is really, really fun. And my son would play soccer outside and I do the same thing, just kick the ball back. I mean, I'm not a good soccer player, but you don't need to be. Just send the ball back to him. And those are moments where you bond with your kids. And how long do they take? 10, 15 minutes? I mean, it's not much at all. And while you're doing that, nobody can be on their phone. And so sometimes I think we make it so complicated. I need to set these hours and I need to turn off my phone here. You know what? Just pick up and go do something together that's normal life living. It doesn't need to be something special. We only have a couple of minutes left, but I really wanted to have you talk to, maybe the single parent, the single mom or the single dad, or a parent who's really struggling with their kid not wanting to be with them and they're worried about their kid feeling too isolated. Where do they start? Because some of this may feel overwhelming to them. They may say, well, my kid was in that second group and they don't talk to anybody. They don't talk to me. How does a parent broach the idea of teaching their kids manners?
It's a really difficult spot, and I have a lot of empathy for people who are in that place. There's a few suggestions that I have where I would start. The first thing that I would do is I would start by sharing all the good things you see about your child on a very regular basis with them and when they're within earshot. If they're in this place, there's a good chance that your relationship is suffering and they don't think that you like them. They know you love them, but they don't know if you like them. And so I'm going to encourage you to figure out ways to help your child know that you really like them. I do this with compliments, and sometimes they're hard to reach for because there's not a lot to compliment.
You're mad. You're mad at this kid. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you can start with really small things, hey, thanks for taking your plate over to the sink. I really appreciate that. Or I love the way you're wearing those jeans. Those are really cool. I don't think I would have had the courage to be able to have such a fun style when I was a teenager. I love the way you do that. Whatever you can do, reach for those compliments. You'll see a little crack in the door. The second thing is to be very aware of your first response when they tell you something. It's really easy as adults for us when they show us, let's say they show us a video that they think is funny and we don't think it's funny at all. It's very easy to say something like, that wasn't funny. That's closing the door right on opportunities for connection. They show us a song and, oh, the music that you guys listen to now, it's our first reaction instead of getting excited about something. I like to put parents in the other person's shoes. If you had a friend that was treating you like you treat your child, would you want to connect with them? Would you want to open up? If every time you told them something, they told you were an exaggerator or you're so dramatic or you hate the song they listen to, you wouldn't be all that excited about connecting with that person. So compliment, Watch your first reaction. Get excited about something they're into. This can be hard for those kids who are isolating a lot because it's probably not something that you're very excited about. But whatever it is, if they're watching makeup tutorials on YouTube, get into it. If they're playing Fortnite, instead of letting them do it in their room, say, "Can you teach me to play? I would love to learn how to play this game. It seems really fun." Try to connect in a way that matters to them. If you've done all those things and you feel like there's a little light, I am such a fan of open communication and just saying something like, "You know what? I feel like our relationship is not what I hoped it would be. What can I do? I want to be close to you. I want us to have conversations. I want to be there for you. What can I do so that you want to do that with me too?"
Ask your kids to teach you. It's very humbling, but kids love to feel smart, and they love to feel that their parent wants to learn and that they can learn from them, because that makes them feel so smart. My guest has been Brooke Romney, the best-selling author of 52 Modern Manners for Today's Teens. There are volumes 1 and volumes 2. You have to read the books, whether you have a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 15 or an 18-year-old. These are manners and skills that will help kids do better in life, be happier people, have good friends, and most importantly, have better relationships with you, their parents. Brooke, I'm so grateful you came on. How can people find you and find out more about the work that you do?
I have a really active Instagram community full of incredible parents, and that is at Brooke Romney Writes. You can get the books on my website or also on Amazon.
Awesome. And that's Romney with Romney, not just Y. Brooke Romney. Brooke, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been so insightful. Do you ever find yourself wrestling with teaching your kids or teens manners? Well, here's the deal. Leading by example is key. Kids pick up on what we do, so use polite words like please and thank you, and show respect to others. Start early and keep at it consistently. Begin teaching manners when they're young and praise them when they get it right. And hey, adjust your expectations based on their age. Well, that's all the time we have for today. And until we meet again, find other tips on parenting at meekerparenting.com. And please remember that great kids are raised, not born.